Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The AbilityOne Commission partners with federal agencies to deliver essential services while expanding economic opportunity for people with significant disabilities. As the program evolves, its leaders are working to modernize employment standards and navigate procurement reforms. Here to explain what AbilityOne is and what it isn't are Kimberly Zeich, Executive Director of the U.S. AbilityOne Commission, and Robert Hogue, Chairperson of the Commission and Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Manpower and Reserve Affairs at the Department of the Navy. Ms. Zeich and Mr. Hogue, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Mr. Hogue, let me go to you first. The AbilityOne Commission really oversees a huge network of nonprofit agencies through federal contracts. Tell us how the Commission works with agencies, especially like DoD and GSA, to make sure that your contracts align with both the government's and AbilityOne's mission goals and procurement standards.
Well, thanks for the question. First, let me say how AbilityOne works really is through a unique public-private partnership arrangement. What happens is we look across government, establish what the requirements are for certain kinds of products and services, and then we begin to work essentially through our central nonprofit agencies and nonprofit agencies out there in our network to identify whether or not we are aware of service providers or manufacturers who can provide those required services or products within our network. If we can, and if we can get them at a reasonable price, then the Commission effectively look at all the information regarding the product and cost, et cetera, and its impact on the nonprofit agencies and whether or not it will result in employment for individuals who are disabilities, and then moves to put those products or services on what's called the procurement list. Once it's on the procurement list, and this is the magic of the program, federal agencies more or less have to buy that product off of that list. So we're very judicious about what goes on the list and very careful about ensuring that it's a fair price for the agencies. We're not trying to absorb all of an agency's budget. And through a very small investment of federal resources through that mechanism, we have, in effect, been able to create in the private sector about 39,000 jobs for people who are blind or who have severe disabilities. So again, we need to work through the central nonprofit agencies, the CNAs as we call them. They're essentially our partners. The agency itself is a very small agency, but because of this unique partnership, we can actually affect a very significant market out there, and that pays off in jobs for people who need them, people who otherwise have a difficult time cracking the federal workforce and competing for jobs.
Ms. Zeich, let me follow on with you. Mr. Hogue has talked about how the contracts work, but there's recently been some rule changes about limiting competition for AbilityOne service contracts. So how are you balancing these new procurement rules with your responsibility to protect jobs for people who have, as Mr. Hogue said, significant disabilities?
Take the partnership construct one step further. The AbilityOne Commission is comprised of 11 federal executives and 4 private citizen members, all appointed by the president. And they're responsible for making the decisions and determining the strategic direction of the AbilityOne program. When it comes to something like introducing competition, which we did not have previously within the AbilityOne program normally falls within the exceptions to the Competition and Contracting Act. But we have been implementing some recommendations that were made by a government-wide panel to increase accountability and integrity across the AbilityOne program. The limited competition model strikes a balance because it is looking at several factors. We want to afford AbilityOne customers an opportunity to take a look at the different approaches, opportunities for innovation and responsiveness among AbilityOne contractors, but we will balance the other factors, the employment, the training, non-price factors as well as price factors to make sure that those limited competitions result in the best outcome for the government and for the AbilityOne program.
Well, your real focus is on the people who are doing the work, that are fulfilling these contracts. And you recently drafted a new career development policy for your participating employees. Tell us about that and how it's going.
If I could jump in on that one, I would say first, Yes, our mission is to help create jobs for people who are blind or who have severe disabilities. But it's not just the job itself. We're actually trying to bring them into the workforce. And I think the president's guidance, and when he originally took office this term, made it very clear he wants to bring in people who come from communities that face those kinds of challenges and bring them into the workforce. So we're not just looking for jobs. We're looking to help people build careers, hopefully. And what we're trying to do right now, and Kim, I think, can address this in more detail than I, but we're trying to make sure that the nonprofit agencies are looking at career development, that training is available and longer term prospects are on the table.
Ms. Zeich, tell us how you're engaging your partners in this career development exercise.
The Commission is working through our central nonprofit agencies, National Industries for the Blind, and Source America to gather facts, best practices, ideas, as well as resource needs from the AbilityOne federal contractors. That's our network of nonprofit AbilityOne employers, persons who are blind or individuals with significant disabilities, so that we can find out what's working today. To what extent do we have career development, training, career mobility, whether that's lateral, upward, or outward, across the AbilityOne network? And how can we take into account those great ideas before we finalize a commission guidance on the subject?
I'm speaking with Kimberly Zeich. She's the Executive Director of the U.S. AbilityOne Commission, and Robert Hogue, the Chairperson of the Commission and also the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Manpower and Reserve Affairs at the Department of the Navy. Mr. Hogue, let me come back to you. There's been some pushback about the AbilityOne program, and some folks have called for its phase out. What is your response to that? And what do critics maybe misunderstand about the AbilityOne program?
Well, thanks for the question. I think there is a great deal of misunderstanding out there about the program. First of all, I'm aware that some individuals out there believe that the AbilityOne program is only able to provide essentially janitorial service type jobs out there. It's not providing those high quality jobs, and therefore you could measure the value of that service by whatever your particular standard is and decide it's not worth keeping. I would challenge that assumption. Yes, it's true. We do take care of some buildings, some groundskeeping. Those jobs are there. And those jobs, by the way, do return value to the individuals that hold them. But we aspire to much more than that. And if I could, I would say we're working with some federal agencies right now, and particularly inside the Department of the Navy, to try to identify higher end, what I consider to be higher end jobs, engineering type jobs or engineering technician type jobs with defense contractors that are, through the mechanisms that we already have in place. The major commands in the Department of the Navy can set aside some of those kinds of positions, assuming that the commission can find employees to fill those jobs. So we're working on that kind of a thing. And I think the people who are interested in shutting us down are again primarily focused on the wrong type of employment. I would also say the commission isn't what's important here. Shutting down the commission doesn't do anything. It puts 25 or so people out of a job, assuming they can't find a transfer to another position in some other agency. That's not really the issue. The only reason I'm here, the reason I was attracted to this work in the first place, and the reason I think people come and stay, is because of the mission itself. We are helping people with severe disabilities, blindness, and things of that nature to try to find gainful employment, to make sure that they get the rewards that employment brings to individuals, not just taking care of themselves, sometimes their families, and achieving a larger public policy purpose, and that is ensuring that the government doesn't have to take care of people who can otherwise care for themselves. Those are laudable goals, which I think could easily be squashed if the commission was put out of business for the wrong reasons.
Well, Ms. Zeich, let me follow up with you. That mission that Mr. Hogue just articulated is really powerful. How are you addressing some of the particular issues like ending subminimum wage or combining competitive employment for the population that you serve?
Thank you for that question. And Mr. Hogue addressed some of the criticisms that some organizations have of the AbilityOne program. I'd like to look at the other side of that to say we have also taken some of those critiques as opportunities to improve the AbilityOne program. So the commission eliminated the use of any sub-minimum wages across the AbilityOne program in 2021. The commission issued a policy that's been fully implemented. The Commission has also been working on several ways that we can have more integrated workplaces across the AbilityOne program, which speaks to competitive integrated employment, or CIE. That competitive integrated employment is about competitive wages and benefits, opportunities for career mobility or career advancement, like anyone without disabilities, and opportunities to work in an integrated setting. So we've been really driving the AbilityOne program closer and closer to that model of employment.
What are some of the best practices that you all have learned within the AbilityOne program that agencies across the government could learn from in how they deal with individuals in their own workforces who may have disabilities?
And that's a great question. And I know that the federal government is a model employer of Americans with disabilities. At the same time, I would remind all of my federal colleagues that providing adaptive technology and reasonable accommodations is typically very straightforward and very affordable. And I would also want my colleagues to know that the AbilityOne program can be an excellent talent pool for federal agencies. We have individuals with disabilities who are interested in upward mobility or outward mobility. We have seen employees go from AbilityOne jobs into federal jobs, so that can be an excellent career pathway.
Thank you. And Mr. Hogue, let me come back to you. As you think about the future of the AbilityOne program and where you see it being able to have impact, are there particular asks that you might have of Congress or the federal government to help you accomplish that vision?
Yes, there are actually. I would start with we have a new administration that is, several months into this. Obviously, it's important to have the support of the administration, or at least the understanding of the administration. And I feel very fortunate that this administration has shown that they have an interest in the program. I think they understand the mission, and they have been supportive of the ways in which we're trying to execute the program to meet not only program goals, but also to align with the president's his mission itself. And so I'm grateful for the administration support we've had so far, and that includes budgetary support from the Congress. Mostly what we need from the Congress, well, the most obvious is we need some resourcing. We have a small agency that requires staff and very small things like IT budget and an IG office and things of that nature. We need those resources, as every agency does, to operate. But in addition, from Congress, we need their interest. We need for them to be aware of what the agency is actually trying to accomplish. We will get good ideas from congressional staffers. We had meetings with them already this year. Those return fairly productive conversations that highlight ideas that we can act on and that they can act on. So their interest is very important to us, as well as the resources.
I've been speaking with Kimberly Zeich. She's the Executive Director of the U.S. AbilityOne Commission, and Robert Hogue is Chairperson of the Commission and also serves as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Manpower Reserve Affairs at the Department of the Navy. Thank you both for joining me, and thanks for doing this really important work.
Thank you for having us.
We'll post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Listen to the Federal Drive on your schedule. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.